Welcome, everyone. I'm Amy Seeley, president of Seeley Test Pros and LEAP, helping students to succeed in all kinds of tests from 8th grade to grad school throughout Ohio.
And I'm Mike Bergen, president of Chariot Learning and TestBright, helping students and teachers alike exceed their educational goals, based out of Rochester, New York.
Between the two of us today, we have over 60 years experience at the highest levels of the test preparation and supplemental education industries.
We both love to talk and learn about the latest issues in education, testing, and admissions. So let's get down to tests and the rest. The fascinating topic we want to explore today is ourselves. Welcome to another episode of EXTEMP with Amy and Mike. Hello, Amy.
Hey there, Mike. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm actually a little tired. As you know, we just got back from what I would call a fantastic IECA National Conference in Baltimore.
Yeah. No, this is the time of year where you and I get to spend more time together. So actually, we've spent the last few days together, and now it's like, oh, we're logging in. But yeah, we're both tired, right? Tired. Talking
busy,
and
lots
networking
of
for
stuff to
days
catch up on,
is exhausting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's all good stuff. But it's just you realize going into it, your social battery better be fully charged, right?
You know, it's funny because I was thinking as I was driving back from Baltimore yesterday that my social battery was charged, like it was filled up. As an extrovert, I get energy from engagement, and it was nice to have that much social interaction. You know, I work from home. There are long stretches of the day that the only people I talk to are on Zoom, and sometimes I'm not even talking to people on Zoom. I mean, I don't count the dog. So, to these events where we find ourselves immersed in this cacophony of interesting conversation and ideas is thrilling to me.
Yeah. I think it's more of a self-awareness now that we do this so much. Now I know it going into, I know what I'm in for. And I'm also like, I say I'm a heavy E on the Myers-Briggs, but
Yeah,
I mean, but it is something where you're like, oh, realizing going in that you're going to be talking to a lot of people. Yeah. So
totally.
yeah, well, I mean, we're going to get to talking more about the conference in a little bit, but so in terms of what's going on this month, the biggest thing this month probably for you or has been your travels, Mike. Can you share with us a little bit about where have you been?
So I had a trip I've been looking forward to for a long time. Ever since my daughter was accepted as a study abroad student at the University of Barcelona, the clock was ticking for my inevitable journey to Spain. And so she did a full semester, which was fantastic for her. And then the rest of us, me, my wife Sarah, my son Mason, went out to join my daughter Ivy in Barcelona. And we had a fantastic week. And I know you've heard me say this 1,000 times already. I just got back a week ago. I think Barcelona is one of the coolest, most livable cities I've ever encountered. And as someone who is uh, obsessed with urban design, I was just blown away.
Yeah, what you've said so far about it is like further confirmation because everything I've heard about Barcelona has been positive. So you are going to be like the final verdict of let's see what Mike has to say about it. And it just sounds like it's just such an amazing place to visit. You were really, I mean, I could tell in your voice, like you were really impressed with Barcelona.
Very excited about it, and it's not just me. There's an international list of most livable cities in the world. Barcelona routinely lands in the top three. Will that's like a teaser for where you're going next month. Is also in the top three, but that's kind of the difference between a destination where you're going for nature, or you're going
Hmm.
for a specific event, and someplace you just want to bask in the glory of everyday existence. To me, the best thing about Barcelona is just being in Barcelona, walking around, stopping for tapas, stopping for a pastry at one of those incredibly inviting patisseries. Here's something I didn't tell you. The bread there was the best. The
Yeah.
bread in Barcelona, just a regular sandwich, whatever it's on, that bread was so
And this is
good.
going to sound really naive when we're talking about bread. It's like it's bread, but there's nothing Is there something unique about it being in Spain, or just it's just really
No,
just bread, good bread?
I mean, that's the thing. We all know what we want bread to taste like. We all
We
know the
do.
difference between a good loaf of
No, but
bread
I
and a
think I
bad loaf of
think
bread
about
or a
like
roll or
is
anything like that.
there's
Just
Italian, like there's baguettes and there's, French
all of
bread,
it.
Italian bread, but yeah,
Their baguettes are
rustic
fantastic.
bread.
Their
So
rustic bread,
yeah,
their whole grain
all
bread,
wonderful.
everything was just a delight
Yeah.
to eat. So yeah, I was pursuing sandwiches. I mean, they then, very often they serve very simple sandwiches because
Hmm.
every ingredient is good.
Yeah.
They You hear a lot about how bread outside of the United States is better because our enriched flour is just stripped out of a lot of valuable stuff or it has too many additives or something like that. I don't know. I mean, people are like, oh, Americans develop these gluten allergies or they're trying to go gluten
Hmm.
free. No one else in the world does that because
Yeah.
they have different flour.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true or not, but I can say
You definitely noticed a difference when you were there.
there was a qualitative improvement in every single roll, piece of bread, pastry I had. And that's not even we took a day trip to Andorra and France, and I got into a little corner of France. Now, you've been to France. I had never been to France,
Uh-huh.
but I mean, it sounds stereotypical, but we got a croissant in this little town inside a fort in Montlouis, tiny little bakery. That croissant was literally that's what a croissant was supposed to taste like. It was soft, it was buttery, it was laminated. I was like, oh wow, I get it now.
Croissant tastes better in France.
The croissant. Yes.
That's the
So
best French accent you're ever going to get out of me. So tell me, what's the one thing you did, like one activity or place, like that really stands out to you as far as like if one goes to Barcelona, one must do what?
well, okay, that's a loaded question because everything was so great. But I would say
Hmm.
that if you're going to Barcelona, you need to go to Montserrat. You should go see La Sagrada Familia. We just
Hmm.
went to the outside, not the
Yeah.
inside, but we did a full trip to Montserrat. You should get tapas. You should do these things. Something that we did that I didn't expect to enjoy as much as I did. We did like a paella and sangria class, which was
Oh.
fantastic. But one thing we did that I didn't expect was on our trip to Montserrat, we also did a wine tasting and it was a sparkling wine tasting specifically.
Hmm.
And the name of the winery was Lopat, Llopat. That's something you see a lot in
Hmm.
Catalonian, and or Catalan. And I learned so much about sparkling wine and how they're growing a lot of cava, but also
Hmm.
they're starting this new vintage called Corponat, which
Hmm.
is a higher quality version, kind of competing with and in certain ways exceeding champagne. And so they're really going at it. And I just got a lot of culture from it because I learned about the food that they eat with the wine, and I learned a bit. I've been on wine tastings before, but we went through the whole process and we saw a lot about it. But I learned a lot about that Catalonian pride,
Hmm.
which I really didn't know much about. So the next time I go to Spain, it can't be in Barcelona because I'd actually like to see Spanish culture and not
Sure.
Catalonian culture. But this
Right.
was really steeped in it, and the wine was fantastic.
Yeah, it's amazing, right? We always say, I mean, it's kind of cliche, but going somewhere, traveling, how it exposes you to food, culture, things you just there's a whole world out there, Mike, and we just one trip at a time is how we're trying to tackle it, right?
One trip at a time. I mean, between the two of us, we're doing a pretty good job of chipping away at the options, right? But then more emerge all the time.
Now I have to share one thing. This is going to be our transition to you and I going to the IEC conference in Baltimore. And even in the US, one can visit a city and experience its own sort of culinary delicacies, which we got to do in Baltimore, where I didn't even think going into it about this idea of going and eating crab, right?
Which it's funny that you say that, right? Because for a lot of people, Maryland is synonymous with crab.
Right,
It's just
right.
like you don't think about going to Maryland without getting a crab cake or eating blue crabs. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's, ever since I was young and would go crabbing with my uncle, I was like, I've always loved that. And I always
Hmm.
love going down to the Delmarva Peninsula and
Hmm.
getting crabs. But this was a lot of fun because this was at the IECA conference. And one of the things that if listeners have been following along with us for the years that we've been attending the IECA conference, more and more we bring our own posse of test prep
We
professionals,
do.
people representing NTPA, people who do both ICE, college counseling and education. And just, we have this traveling party. And it was hilarious to find, I think it was 9 of us
Hmm.
down at an all-you-can-eat crab place.
Yes.
This was your first experience of attacking a pile of crabs
It
with
was,
a
and that's the
knife and a
thing.
hammer.
And the joke was right that like I don't eat crab. Like that is not one. I'm not a huge seafood person. I mean, I eat shrimp, I eat lobster, but I'm not a fish person. But there was that moment when we all arrived, and I took in like outdoor picnic table. They're gonna dump this pot. You know, you're eating like off the table essentially, and I'm like, how can I not participate in this like, culinary experience, right? And so, I mean, the little hammers on the table, the little wooden hammers, where I was like, okay. But the big joke for me was that obviously, man, working for my food, that's a lot of work. I mean, but the funniest thing is I saw a picture that someone took of our table.
Yeah.
And in this, you guys are looking up. I'm the only one actually eating crab. I'm like, well, that's funny because that might have been like the only like the one of five bites because it was like trying to get the crab out of the crab and hammer it down, whatever. But I fully embraced that experience and it was super fun
Which is
to
just
share that
like
with all
you.
of you guys.
You fully embrace every experience, even if you were like, "Ah, I don't love crab. You were there for it. You were even thinking of ordering something different. And you're
A
like,
hot
wait a
dog.
second. I'm here. I'm here for the experience.
I
And we
was.
had it, especially because these crabs were not my fave because
Hmm.
I love the garlic crabs. These
Oh,
were smothered in Old
the
Bay.
good old. Well, you and I had plenty of Old Bay in those
Yeah,
few
I
days that
think a
we were
little
in
too much
Baltimore,
Old
did we
Bay.
not? You'll laugh at the airport on the way out. You could buy, peanuts, Old Bay peanuts, and I was kind of laughing, like, yeah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, right.
I'm not a huge, I'm an Old Bay person, but again, the whole point is, I didn't really even think about going into Baltimore, how we would actually be able to feel like we were experiencing the culture or the culinary part of Baltimore. We did get to experience like the street life of
We
Baltimore.
experienced the street life. We had an Airbnb that was distant from, it was a
Yeah,
half a mile from the location, and we experienced some of the challenges that Baltimore
of
is
a
going
of a
through.
city. Yeah, for sure, for sure.
What did you think of the conference itself?
Yeah, I was gonna say like takeaways. Well, we're gonna probably talk about this for ourselves, but just I think we noticed, especially from the test prep perspective, one thing that I was that was clear to me with a couple of the presentations, sort of like, what does the industry want to talk about? Like, what is it that our industry, what should be representing? Obviously, testing, and that is a huge piece of the college admissions pie. Um, but so, and obviously, a lot of it's changed the testing landscape these last few years. But just kind of understanding, like, really, the big takeaway is always that testing is an important part of the college admissions process. And I obviously you and I know that, but hearing that from adjacent professionals is good reinforcement for the work that we do and our contribution for students in that application.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting because you and I were talking to Drew Halpern from Summit Education,
Mhm.
and Summit is one of the companies that collaborates to give a big test prep kind of
Mhm.
state of the industry presentation to IECA.
Mhm.
And your comment was really there wasn't a lot to talk about this year,
No, there really
which
wasn't.
which is good because it suggests that there wasn't rampant change or
Yes.
controversy this year,
Right.
that the tests are stable, still changing a little bit, as
Mhm.
listeners know, all the time, but pretty stable. The response to testing is stable. Colleges are more and more bold in indicating the value that they get from test scores. So there wasn't that much to talk about.
Yeah.
But then again, we were having a conversation kind of predicting what might be controversial next year. And we were even talking more after you walked away. So I think that there's going to be there's plenty on the horizon, as we know, because we're on the beat. We're paying close attention.
Yeah.
What did you think about the other aspects? I mean, just generally, was this the fourth
This is the
IECA
fifth, Mike. This is
conference?
our fifth
This was our
conference.
fifth. Okay, good. So
Mhm.
how did this compare for you to previous ones?
I think, well, kind of like we were saying, we at least with our part of the college admissions process and the conversations, it sort of solidified like we're kind of falling into that period of like not a lot of major like upset intrigue in our world. Because really, when you think about it, when we first started going in 2022, we were coming off of COVID and that was still factoring into everybody with how you were engaging. Then you get into the SAT, SAT change, ACT change, schools moving back to requiring testing, right? Like that's a huge thing that we're seeing. So I feel like this is where we're like, oh, for one of the first conferences, I think I didn't feel like I had to consume as much new information, new knowledge, at least in our neck of the woods. But I love the conference venue is right. We were overlooking Camden Yards. So
Which
that
was
was kind of
really
cool. The
cool,
view that we
right?
had every day was
Yeah.
was beautiful.
Yeah.
And again, as always, getting to talk with people who are experts about colleges and college admissions is always a joy because, as you know, while we operate in a particular part of the space, I call it the trivial pursuit pie as college admissions, we are one piece of the pie. But it's lovely to talk with people who are experts on these many other pieces of that pie.
Yeah. Absolutely. Because we learn a lot. By talking to people and hearing their responses for some of the aspects of the college admissions process that we don't specialize in, we do get a more comprehensive sense of the environment and what our families and students are going through.
Yeah. And I think, too, for us, especially, it's a real value add that we bring to our students or our fellow instructors, right? That we can come back and like when I meet with students now, well, we are not IECs. We do not bill ourselves as IECs. There's so much richness to what we add about what students should be doing because we understand how what we're doing with them fits into this greater picture.
I agree with you completely. I mean, and that's something that I think your average client might not recognize, the difference between somebody who feels very siloed and doesn't show interest in the bigger picture and richer ecosystem of
Hmm.
supports and concerns for families on the road to college.
Hmm.
We have a broad view. A lot of our colleagues on the education side, on the college counseling side, both private IECs and school counselors take on that challenge to understand the big picture and be able to provide better guidance. And it's a difference maker.
Yeah, and a good example of that would be obviously ACT science being optional now. We as test prep providers have provided right test prep for science forever. But now we have to understand the place of science and right what's the role and how we guide our students or advise our students when we could just say, oh yeah, we're going to do ACT science, but is that in the student's best interest? Does the student need that as a part of their application? That's that piece that we are trying to always keep in perspective as we sort of converse with these ICs.
Yeah, absolutely. From the professional side, I have to continue to admire what IECA does. They were celebrating their 50th
50th, I know.
year, and what a model organization supporting independent educational consultants and every one of their concerns, creating a marketplace to bring all kinds of services and products together. What a what a philanthropic organization where they were
Hmm.
talking about the IACA Foundation
Hmm.
and the grants that they offer all over the country, and just what a community. The people that we meet, and we have so many friends there, and we make new friends every year, and they are all just such engaged, passionate professionals.
Yeah. And we should tell our listeners to stay tuned because we did record many IECs at the conference. So stay tuned to upcoming episodes, literally from the IECA conference in Baltimore. Some
Yeah,
interesting
we've
conversations.
wanted for a long time to deliver to listeners a sense of what it's like to be there. And we
We did it
debated
this
different.
time. I'm so happy, and I can't wait for those episodes to release because we really did that, and I'm excited to hear how it turns out.
Totally. So Interestingly, there were lots of things that were going on there. And one of the responses that some of our friends came and shared with me, we had our own table. So Amy and I always, past when we were attending ICA, we were staffing the NTPA table
Hmm.
to start to introduce the National Test Prep Association to the college counseling
Hmm.
world. But now NTPA has a table and it has its own staff. And Amy and I are free to have our own table. So
We
we got a
do.
table in the vendor area for Tess and the rest in Test Bright. And we set up a microphone. And of course, we were right next to all of our friends at
Yes.
NTPA. But we were able to have different conversations. And of course, we were able to do some recording, which you're going to hear. But, some of our friends would drop in at different points in the day. And I had a conversation with somebody who was pretty shook.
Pretty shook.
There was a presentation on the careers and majors of the future. And they were talking about this fourth industrial
Revolution.
revolution and how AI is changing everything and put up, that all the important majors of the future seem to be technical. And this consultant or this counselor was really like, well, what about humanities? What about social sciences? Like, why are we just talking about this? And I shared that response, and then someone else came up, and IECA, one of the things they did to facilitate conversation was they provided some icebreaker questions that people could
Hmm.
ask each other. And so, the theme was, it was like Dungeon Master. So the theme was to phrase these questions in the context of a fantasy world. And
Hmm.
so there was an AI question, and I'm gonna get the language wrong, but it was basically, what are your thoughts about AI? And the first option was like, it is this magical artifact that's very special. And the other was, it's a cursed relic. And then the third was something entirely different.
Yeah.
And I had a response to that. So I'll ask you, I'll just ask you first, Amy. Like, when you hear a question like that, what are your thoughts about AI? Is it this magical font of blessings? Is it a dangerous cursed artifact? Is it something else that needs further explanation?
Oh, it's hard because I can see it's like two sides of a coin, right? Like this idea of like, I mean, the blessing, right, for me at least, is just how it's helping to, as business owners, create efficiency, create effectiveness in ways that we never imagined, or in ways that allow us to do what we do even better, right? So, like in that sense, it's like that's the huge like blessing, right? It's being able to do more things that I would have been able to do before. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
But at the same time, right, there is this curse to it. And at IECA, there was an advisor that we work with working with students, and she was mentioning how a family had used AI to sort of do their own college search. And she's their advisor. And so, of course,
Yeah.
they're bringing to her, here's all the research we found, right? And she said, some of this information is wrong, right? So you can imagine, right? There are things you don't know what you don't know with AI. So when you use that tool, again, it can be highly effective, efficient, but at the same time, when you're trying to learn about something that you don't know about, you wouldn't know that something's wrong. And
Right.
so I think that's where it gets the danger of somebody operating on information that is incorrect information. And I joke or laugh, with my travels, I've been using AI to do planning. And one thing it keeps getting wrong, and this is going to sound funny, is when I type in, okay, here are the days I'm going to be somewhere, twice now, it is made the wrong day of the week with the wrong day of the month. And that might not seem like a big deal, but even for you in our world, someone getting a day of the week and a day of the month wrong in testing a date, a timeline, would mess everything up. And so this idea of the hallucinations or the incorrectness that we find is tricky or troubling when you know the information is important, but how do you know what you don't know when
Yeah.
you're, using AI to give you all that information? That's at least my thought, my hot take. What about you, Mike?
Totally, totally fair. I'm gonna put on my educator cap because all we hear in the news is all the benefits to large corporations and small practices and the productivity that they are ostensibly getting from AI. I'm going to take the position of an educator because I'm in the business of
So we are,
education.
Mike.
And while the business part is one thing, the education is another thing. And in terms of education, literally the acquisition of knowledge and the development of critical reasoning, I think AI is a cursed relic in a D&D framework, right? A cursed item is it's magical and it seems like it's going to be beneficial to you, but
Okay, so see, I don't know the
it
DoD of it. So
has
this is okay,
something
this makes
about it
sense.
that
Yes.
actually causes it to be detrimental, not beneficial.
All that glitters is not gold here, is what we're saying.
What I'm saying right is that you grab it and you're like, "Oh, this is amazing." If the AI does the research for you, then you don't learn anything that you're supposed to
Yes.
learn while doing the research. So for travel planning, I do it all. Like I'll go online, I'll ask questions, I'll go on to YouTube, I'll hear what people have to say, but I will then take all that information and make my own determinations.
You
When, so this is, there's an interesting thing happening in college, right? Because we all heard about the professor giving the commencement address where she mentioned how AI is the wave of the future and all the students booed at her, right? And this happened over and over again.
yeah,
College
yeah.
after college, the commencement speaker is talking about how important AI is, and everybody's freaking out because these students are afraid of losing they don't have any
Potential
jobs
jobs,
because
right?
AI is absorbing the jobs. There's another component to this. A lot of professors are less than sympathetic because they say, listen, you're booing AI now, but you all used AI to complete all your assignments in my class,
Right, right.
right? And the point is that's the curse. It's like Cliff Notes. Remember in the old days when
Mm-hmm.
you could
Spark
go
notes,
and like
cliff
the
notes.
teacher would assign a book for you, but you could go and you could buy the book that gave you just the bullet points and pull the little pieces out so that you could maybe answer your homework assignments, but it's not as if you read the book. Someone else read the book and
Right. And
summarized it. They got all the benefits from reading that book that didn't involve just pulling out certain salient facts. And thus they learned. And if you use the Cliff Notes, if you used a paper mill to write a paper for you, you may get the grade, but you don't get the knowledge. And without the knowledge, what's the
we had
point?
this conversation, right? And what you're to your point about what Spark Notes does or Cliff Notes does, it does the thinking for you. It does the
Right.
processing for you, which means you don't get the learning. Like you were saying, how much
Yeah.
you value writing your own work
Yes.
originally organically because it helps you to think, right? To process. And so I
Hmm.
think that is the thing that we even see right now in test prep. Students who get the grade in English, they've got a great English grade,
Yeah.
but we see that they can barely read and paraphrase what they just read to process. And so that's sort of to your point, this processing piece is, and then this thinking piece
Right.
is the piece we're losing, which of course is why a lot of the research is now showing is all this tech in school is now really diminishing our students' intellectual capacities, right?
Across the world,
Yeah.
right? Ever since, and now they're tracking, right? It wasn't COVID that
Mm-hmm.
killed reading and math scores around the world.
Mm-hmm.
It was screen time, and not the screen time itself. It's just to
Mm-hmm.
have access to all of this that distracts you from reading,
Mm-hmm.
that summarizes your work, the tools that help you achieve an end that might signal that you have understanding
Mm-hmm.
without developing the understanding itself.
Yeah. That's the fear. That's the curse.
That's the curse. I say this all the time. Whoever does the work does the learning.
Yep.
And right now, AI is learning at a rapid clip. And
Yes.
and
Yes.
people, unless you're willing to try to find a way to use AI to supplement your own learning process,
Yeah.
then you'll find yourself in a position where you're easily replaced
Mm-hmm.
by a thinking machine because you gave up your capacity for thought.
Right. Yep. This is the dilemma.
Yeah. But I mean, otherwise, productivity stuff, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely. Absolutely. So
yeah.
what's up? What's coming up for you in June, Mike?
Well, I'll say something that's coming up for me in May. And then we can talk about June. So I am doing, I don't even know if you know this. I'm doing a seminar with our friend Dave Peterson,
Oh, okay.
Testing and Scholarship Timelines, a free seminar on May 28th.
Oh, nice. Good. I'll have to put that in the show notes, so check it out.
Yeah,
Hmm.
well, put it in the show notes. We're going to talk about the usual stuff. I'm going to talk about your right timeline for testing. He's going to
Hmm.
talk about the timeline for scholarships.
Hmm.
And we're really trying to help people who are thinking, how are they going to make this summer meaningful
Sure.
to set the stage for how you should, because the summer is incredibly important.
Totally. Don't lose out on the opportunities of summer, right?
Yeah, exactly. Now let's turn to June. What's happening in June, Amy
Well,
Seeley?
of course, for both of us, there is the NTPA conference in Chicago, which we're very excited about. Lots of good
Mhm.
things we'll get to do in Chicago, as well as obviously do the conference.
You're dragging me to a Cubs game, I
I
understand.
am. Well, I want to see Wrigley Field. So, hey, that's part of the history and culture of Chicago, Mike. We're going to take that. And of course, architecture tour. Looking forward to that. I am off to Vienna and Prague.
Oh,
So after we leave the
so
conference,
exciting. So
I
when are you
have my
going?
own journey from June 20th to June 28th. Yeah, I'll be doing 3 days in Vienna and 4 days in Prague. And, my interest in culture and history. And now that I've had the benefit of going to some of the really big European cities, these are a little like not off the beaten path. They're not, but I'm really looking forward to, of course, going to another highly livable city, which
One
is
of the top, the most
top
livable
was the
cities in
second.
the
I think
world.
you said the
Vienna
second.
sometimes is number one on the list.
So I'm excited to then come back and share with you this. I'm going into this notion of livable city and how I can, well, I'm going to take advantage of that. But I'm like you, I'm looking forward to all of the culinary and cultural and historical things. Going to go to an opera in Vienna. So yeah, so it's can't wait to come and report back on
I'm
it
so
next month.
excited. Would you like listeners who have been to Vienna or Prague to
They
send
should
you
absolutely.
ideas of things they should
If you
do?
have any tips on travel to Vienna or Prague, I would 100% appreciate anything you can share. Just, it's always good to hear from people who've been somewhere, something you wouldn't think about. Like you said in your trip to Spain, doing a cooking class or something like that. And I'm like, that was my reminder of like, that's something I have to do when I'm there because I'm solo traveling. And that's a great thing for
Yeah.
solo
No,
travelers
that's a
is to
great thing
be
to do
part
early.
of
You
that.
might meet
Yep.
people.
So I appreciate
We,
you mentioning that.
yeah, the class that we did was all Americans.
Yeah. A lot of times it
I
is.
mean,
Americans
not
dig
the
that.
teachers, obviously, but
But but as a solo travel at the very least, for me, that means you can possibly meet some people while you're there. So who knows? We'll see what happens. But I'm excited, very excited.
that's very exciting. I forgot to mention one thing that was last month, not this coming month, but we didn't talk about it on the podcast. We've spoken about it before. Some periodical, some website put together a list of the top 15 small and medium-sized enterprises for test prep in the US.
Oh,
And
yes.
and
And
somehow Chariot Learning, tiny little Chariot Learning, my practice landed on that list.
which is so exciting and like yay, congrats to Mike. Yes, I think we
Thank
shared
you.
that on the Substack, but you're right. That's really, when you're in this and when you're in an industry and you're working and we see ourselves as these little small enterprises,
Yeah.
to get that acknowledgement is just so exciting, so rewarding. And of course, it's because you do excellent work.
Well, that's nice of you to say. You and someone else think so. And I think it was just really cool because it was such a surprise because the other companies who are on the list have
We're
large
big, much
footprints,
larger companies for
much
sure. Exactly.
larger.
Yep.
Uh, But we have been at this a long time, haven't
Yep.
we? How did they miss Sealy Test Pros?
I'll get them next time, Mike.
If you had a blog, they probably would have known.
I do have a,
I
I
bet
do
that
have
was
a
a big
blog.
part of it. I bet that because we're all trying to figure out like how'd you get on that list?
Yeah. I mean, but well, you know
Michael
what?
Jordan asked me, MJ asked me, like, how did you get on that list? I'm like,
No, I
I
mean,
don't
but
know.
each of us is creating our own footprint on the internet, right? And
Yeah,
so this is an acknowledgement of like, you got a bigger footprint than many people, right?
I have a bigger mouth.
Small but mighty. That's what we're gonna say. It's small but mighty, right?
Chariot Learning is small but mighty, and so that was a fun thing.
Yeah.
Yes. On
Congrats.
to the next month. All
That's
right,
right.
Amy. Obviously, we could talk about ourselves all day. Unfortunately, we're out of time.
It is always a pleasure, Mike.
The pleasure, as always, is mine.
Awesome. We hope you enjoyed this discussion as much as we did. Be sure to join us for another fascinating topic and guest on the next test and the rest.
Did you enjoy this episode as much as we did? Find expanded links and more for this and all of our episodes at our show page at testsandtherest.com. While you're there, be sure to explore everything the larger TestBright site has to offer, including real, expert, unbiased answers to the toughest admissions testing questions. Of course, we'd love for you to rate, review, and subscribe to Test and the Rest on your favorite podcast platform. If there's a topic or guest you'd like us to feature, just let us know and spread the word.